For the parents of 18-year-old Caleb Diehl, life has become a waiting game.
These things happen, they go on, but then all of a sudden, wow, is this a possibility in our life now?
Waiting for him to miraculously walk through the front door, or waiting for the news they dread to hear.
I'm not ready to let him go. I wanted to still think there is a chance that they're wrong.
One thing is for sure, nobody has seen any sign of Caleb since the day he disappeared just over a year ago from his mother's house in Nacona, Texas, about 100 miles northwest of Dallas with a population of just over 3,000 people. It's a small town with some heavy baggage.
If there's any good thing that could come out of what has happened to Caleb, is the exposure to the reality of what took place and the denial that so much of this town has been under. They can no longer live in this state of denial.
Caleb Diehl is the youngest of the family, with 3 sisters and a brother.
Tell me about your brother, Caleb.
He was the baby.
He was mama's boy, and he was awesome, really outgoing, friendly, everyone loved him.
Fearless. He wasn't one to back down from anything, really.
Caleb's sister Courtney is the last one to see him alive on Monday evening when he heads out the door. And now nobody has any idea where he's gone.
He said he was going to visit a friend. His friend wasn't even in town, and we found out later. It was the last time I saw him.
And according to police, the friend in question later says that he and Caleb never had any plans to meet. Where on earth is Caleb? And what happened to him?
Did anything seem unusual?
No, not at all. He had just applied for a job, and he was planning on going back that next day for his interview.
Caleb is driving a Chevy pickup truck borrowed from Ricky Howard, a family man with a wife and 3 kids, and a close friend of Caleb's family as well.
But whitewater rafting, all of the family, their kids were very close in age with all of us. We got along really well.
Ricky Howard is a successful and popular businessman in town, but with a checkered past. A former bank president, he was convicted and served time on bank fraud charges in 2007, but he still keeps his friends close.
He was a good friend. He was the kind of friend that if you needed something, he was the first one to be there and help you. He was a kind, enjoyable guy to be around.
Caleb works odd jobs for Ricky, who has investments in farming, cattle, and oil wells, and owns several properties in the area. In fact, police say that the last known person that Caleb contacted before his disappearance was Ricky Howard.
What did Ricky Howard say they were talking about?
Work. Ricky Howard told us that Caleb had told him that he was wanting to borrow the trucks to go to Oklahoma, where he had met a girl and worked for her uncle. Nobody else knew anything about it. That's just what Ricky told us.
Knowing what you know now, do you think that story is believable?
To me, my opinion, no.
And when nobody in the family sees or hears from Caleb for 2 days, one of the first people they contact is Ricky Howard. He tells them the same story about Caleb running away to Oklahoma.
That was the first anybody, none of us had heard anything about some job. He was supposed to be going to school, so that was just kind of unusual.
He knew he wanted to graduate high school. He knew he had to go to school, and he was walking a thin line with the days that he could no longer miss.
2 days after Caleb disappears, Tammy Diehl files a missing persons report with the police.
Never would he just leave and not tell anybody. We were all too close, and he was too close with his brother and sisters.
But even as she heads out to file the report, the borrowed pickup truck suddenly shows up the same day, but without Caleb. And police and the family are stunned at exactly where it turns up. Of all places, right smack in the middle of Ricky Howard's locked garage.
She called Ricky Howard and told him that she was fixing to go to the police and report him missing. About an hour and a half, give or take, from that, Ricky Howard calls the police department and said the truck that Caleb was in, which belonged to Ricky Howard, was found inside his barn.
And police say the truck in Ricky's garage raises some important questions that are still unanswered to this day.
Was there anything unusual inside the truck?
There were 3 $100 bills zip-tied to the stern wheel. The key to the shop, which is normally above the walk-in door to get in the shop, was in the seat of the pickup. The shop was locked up. The only other person that could have access to the shop was Ricky Howard. It was kind of suspicious. If Caleb parked the truck back in there, he could have left the key in there and locked it up. But Caleb had his own key, and it was at his mother's house.
So you found this suspicious at the time?
It raised eyebrows on that, yes.
When you talked to Ricky Howard about the truck reappearing, what was his explanation?
He was normal. He was not excited. He just wanted to report it.
Nobody has an explanation for the money zip-tied to the steering wheel, but Ricky Howard fully cooperates, giving cops permission to search his property, and they make some more curious discoveries.
He had guns and stuff in a gun safe.
Was that illegal?
Yes,
Did he realize that he was a convicted felon and couldn't own these weapons?
I'm sure he did, but it didn't stop him.
Ricky is charged with illegal possession of firearms, and cops stay focused on finding Caleb and any evidence that can help. But something is missing.
When you searched Howard's properties, I mean, the guy was running a business, you didn't find any computers?
We didn't find any computers that were up and running. Now, we did find some that had been destroyed and burnt.
Ricky Howard torched his computers.
They were burned.
Who burns computers? Is that normal around here?
It's possible he was cleaning out somewhere.
But these torched computers are of great interest to you.
Yes.
According to police, Ricky's place is a hotbed of destroyed technology.
Caleb, obviously, he's a teenager. He has a cell phone. Was his cell phone ever recovered?
His cell phone was never recovered by us. After interviewing Ricky Howard, he stated that he found a cell phone smashed in the shop when he was taking the garbage out and threw it in the garbage. And the time the truck was found, the garbage had already been picked up. So we have no evidence if that was Caleb's phone.
Police comb the surrounding countryside with dogs searching for any sign of Caleb. But as they ponder Ricky Howard's story, the Diehl family only worries more for their son's fate. Something isn't right.
I got a sinking feeling in my stomach because things just weren't adding up. I had the what if in my mind. And that what if was based on things they didn't make sense.
But it isn't until Chad says he meets with state and federal lawmen that he becomes truly alarmed.
All the pieces of the puzzle that had the Texas Rangers and the FBI persuaded that Ricky was most definitely involved with Caleb. That was their persuasion. And so I couldn't ignore, these professionals in the line of business they're in.
There is no move to charge Ricky with any foul play in Caleb's disappearance, and the Texas Rangers and the FBI have not responded to our request for comment. But Chad says he cannot rest until he clears the air with Ricky Howard.
I tell everybody there at the table, I want them to know that I've loved the Howard family for a long time, and I didn't want anybody to think that I didn't love or care about them, but that I needed to talk to Ricky alone.
Next, Chad goes face to face with a man he once called his best friend, demanding answers.
I could barely hear myself think with my heart pounding in my chest.